Welcome to Research Perch from the Massage Therapy Foundation. Short, practical insights into massage therapy research and how it can benefit your practice.
Hey everyone, Michael Reynolds here with the Massage Therapy Foundation. Pleasure to be with you all. I'm the marketing chair for the marketing committee of the Massage Therapy Foundation, and welcome back to Research Perch. Glad you're with us. So Research Perch, as you know hopefully by now, is designed to take articles from the International Journal of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork and discuss them, kind of unpack them, kind of clarify things, really bring this research to life for the practicing massage therapist, so we can help you figure out how this affects you in your practice and how to really help you improve your practice and go further in your profession. So that's what it's all about. We are on iTunes, we are on Stitcher for Android users, and we are on the web, obviously. And before we get started, it would mean the world to us if you would go to iTunes if you're on an iOS device and leave us a review. Whether it's good or bad, just be honest. Let us know what you think. Give us a rating and give us a little bit of feedback. Let us know what you'd like to hear, what you like about the show, what you don't like. It would really mean a lot to us if you could give us a quick review. We'd appreciate that. So here with Nikki Monk and Ruth Werner. Ruth is past president of the Massage Therapy Foundation. And Nikki Monk, you are at IUPUI. And also, well, tell Nikki, just I know it's been a while since we had a quick introduction. Give us the 10-second introduction of Nikki Monk.
I'm assistant professor at Indiana University on the IUPUI campus, which is here in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is the home of the most recent Voice winner. Go, Josh! He's also an alumni of our university, so we're very proud of Josh.
Fantastic.
Or Joel. Oops, sorry. Yeah, so I do massage therapy research. I'm with the School of Rehabilitation and Health Sciences.
Awesome. And Ruth, I already kind of gave you a little intro. Anything else you want to add about yourself?
Just that I'm happy to be here, and I love this opportunity to look at how to bring research into the session room.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Let's dig in. So today's article is, and actually, I sometimes get this wrong. Nikki, is this a case study or a research study? What are we discussing today? What's the definition of today's article?
This is actually a retrospective analysis.
A retrospective analysis. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
hold
something
that thought.
a
I
little
want to come
different.
back to that. Let me get the title out here, and we'll talk about what we're talking about, which is the treatment of tactile impairment in young children with autism results with Qigong Massage. So Nikki, back to you. What is this? What is this article? What type of article is it?
Well, it's a retrospective analysis of these folks. Drs. Silva and Shalak, I believe, have been doing research with Qigong with autistic children and having parents do massage treatments and with them to improve some of their symptoms, and to also help with parental stress, which is one of the really big issues in for parents with autism, children on the autism spectrum. But there's a really important contextual point about this article, and that is that about a year ago, the mid-May of 2013, the American Psychiatric Association reclassified sensory abnormalities in autistic children from simply a comorbid symptom to actually a core autism symptom.
A comorbid symptom?
So a comorbid symptom is just another condition that somebody with autism may have.
Okay.
Instead of, now it's actually classified as an autistic symptom. So this makes some of the findings and other research that they had done previously, that because it wasn't relatable to autism, because it was specifically looking at sensory perception and these sorts of things, now that there's a link, some of the data that they had already had from previous studies now became pertinent. So they took a look back in their database where they had 129 children from the ages of 3 to 6 that they had data on, long-term data on, who had been in these programs where their parents were providing this Qigong massage daily for most of the children. There were
97 kids got it, and 32 were waitlisted.
On the wait list, right. And so the children who received it, their parents were giving them these treatments every night. It was about 20 minutes long. The children were in their pajamas, and it was a very it was a very specific routine that these parents were taught, and they had very positive results in that these children were able to receive touch again, and was related to other beneficial outcomes.
Okay, okay. So if I tried a little harder to deconstruct that phrase, I probably could have figured that out because it says retrospective analysis. So looking back makes a lot of sense. So thank you, Nikki. I appreciate that. So next time I'll try a little harder to deconstruct the words better. But I appreciate that explanation. So and Ruth, I want to ask you a question as well, because just to make sure we're on the same page here, what specifically is meant by tactile impairment?
Tactile impairment is an umbrella term that can refer to a lot of different things, but for people who are on the autism spectrum, it can mean that in some areas of their body they are hypersensitive, and in other areas they're hyposensitive, or there are some kinds of stimuli to which they are hypersensitive and others to which they are hyposensitive. So for instance, we see one of the peculiar things about people who are sort of deeper into the more extreme versions of the autism spectrum is they sometimes appear to be impervious to cold, for instance, and can actually suffer tissue injury because it doesn't occur to them to, you know, get out of the ice water. Where for other kinds of stimuli, feathery, tickly things, it's torture. It's horrible, and they just can't, you know, they can't tolerate it to speak of. So having this tactile impairment be now considered a sort of a primary characteristic of autism spectrum becomes really, really interesting, especially for massage therapists, because another point that they really emphasized in this study is that someone who is tactily impaired, especially from infancy, really that presents a really tough barrier to the very beginning of our social interactions. In other words, if you are a parent and your child does not like to be cuddled, or you can't figure out a way to be in touch with your child that makes him or her comfortable and happy, then both of you lose that ability to make a social connection. And it is, you know, it's sort of critical to childhood development that you can create these social connections with people. And so we've seen a really point-to-point correlation with tactile disability or tactile dysfunction and early childhood development with social issues. And also
with self-soothing, ability to regulate, and these sorts of things.
The more tactily dysfunctional someone is, according to this study, the harder time they have, or the longer it takes for them to key into their strategies for self-regulation. And for a young child, that might mean self-soothing, like sucking their thumb, or, you know, my daughter used to tug on her ear, or, you know, whatever it is that children do. They look for their whoopee. That's what I do. Children on the spectrum have a longer delay between feeling upset or feeling disoriented or discombobulated and finding a way to self-soothe and self-regulate. So the theory then goes, if we can improve this tactile impairment, can we also see improvements in some of these other autism symptoms or autism aspects, like parental stress, social connection with parents, and an ability to, an improved ability to self-regulate?
Right.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that explanation. So in reading this, this was specifically targeting Qigong massage. Could one of you just kind of help me understand what Qigong massage is as defined in this particular analysis?
Well, the authors point to Qigong massage as techniques that are derived from Chinese medicine and are specifically directed towards normalizing the child's tactile responses. It tends to be a series of touches on the back and in several different areas. They describe it as, they say that the protocol is available in an appendix. I wasn't able to access that for whatever reason. But it was a very specific protocol that was the parents administered on their children. If it was a tickly place, they were to slow down and do a little bit deeper pressure, whereas if it was a place that if they had a touch of abortion, they didn't like that area, the parent was instructed to do quicker, more brisk movements. And I think, Ruth, you had mentioned something about a tapping, and that's kind of what I imagine is that's when you sort of do the tapping areas. And so that's how they describe it. I've never received Qigong work before, and I've never seen it.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sure our listeners can do a little more research, and maybe we have some practitioners who would give us some feedback as well. So I want to talk about, go ahead, Ruth.
Comments on that.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the outcomes of this particular analysis, but in the spirit of the evening news, I'm going to wait till after we talk about our sponsors, so you cannot go away yet. So let me first talk about our sponsor, which we really appreciate, and our sponsor today is Anatomy in Motion. And Ruth has shared with us it's the reason she bought her iPad. It's the most beautiful app I've ever seen for the study of muscles. It's really an educational app designed to help you learn the muscle systems of the body, and it's designed for really anyone who works with the body. So that obviously includes massage therapists, doctors, medical students, athletes, coaches, physical trainers, therapists. So chiropractors, anyone who works with the body. It's an absolutely gorgeous app. And it's available for iPhone, iPod Touch, and iPad. And if you go to the App Store and search for Anatomy in Motion, you'll find it, and we highly encourage you to download it and check it out. It's great for students, great for practitioners, great for anyone who would like a reference to the muscle systems of the body. So be sure and check it out. We appreciate our sponsor, and we love Anatomy in Motion. It is a fantastic app for massage therapists. So let's talk about the outcome here. So I'm going to just kind of cheat and jump straight to the end because I was interested in seeing what the kind of what the summary is. So I want to talk about how we got there, of course. But really, it says here that Qigong massage is a promising avenue to improve developmental outcomes in autism. So that sounds promising, obviously, especially to parents of young children with autism. So how did we get there, and what does that mean to parents and massage therapists?
Well, I think
go ahead.
I think it's really interesting that they had the parents report the benefit, how beneficial was this for your kids, and 73.6% of the parents said that their children improved. Now, what's also interesting is then they had observations done by the research therapists that were just observing the children's behaviors on the different milestones and their different interaction abilities, so not necessarily with their touch sensitivity, but with their interactions. And they actually noted that 94% of the children experienced improvement. But overall, when they did this retrospective look and analysis, they found that after these 5 months of treatments, and these are daily treatments, these children had significant improvements in their parent-reported ability to tolerate touch and in the parent's stress level. And these were in measures that they developed and that they validated specifically to measure these things. Now, the weaknesses of the study is inherent in its retrospectiveness, because when you do retrospective studies, you're not able to control for all of the things to make sure that these are purely efficacious results. But the really great thing is that there's already a randomized controlled trial that is in progress, and that we should be getting the results by the end of this year, as they stated. So I'm really excited to see this. This was a trial that was designed prospectively, so they were able to control for some of these issues, and we'll actually be able to see if it was efficacious. And the thing that they're coming through, one of the other big outcomes of this was that the children in this study were about halfway to what normal children would be in these, let's see, in their sense of self-regulation.
Social connections, yeah.
Right. And this is with their sense and self-regulation checklist. So they're about halfway there. And so if you could imagine a child who is caught early, or even within this 3 to 6 year age span, if a parent was able to work with their child for oh, look, we're under an emergency alert, a flash flood warning. Sorry, my phone was going off. I had to, of course, see why it was buzzing, and it won't stop.
Well, be careful, Nikki.
Sorry
We'll
about
wrap
that.
up soon.
Right? If I float away, you'll know why.
That's right.
Sorry, I just got really distracted.
Well, by a flash flood, that's allowed.
Well, flash flood, it did. But essentially, so if a child can be helped to where they were almost there, 50% there to what normally functioning or non-autistic children are doing, what if the parent was able to do that work for up to a year? And the author suggests that perhaps up to a year doing this, they can get their children to non-autistic children functioning in these areas, which is just tremendous.
Yeah, I would agree. And did it go into any detail about how parents learned Qigong methods?
I think there was an instructional DVD, wasn't there, Ruth?
Yeah, there was a DVD and there was I think there was a workbook. And once a week, a therapist would visit, and so the children would also receive professional massage from a therapist.
That was only in half of the children, though, because they were actually, the retrospective study combined two different randomized controlled trials. One of the groups just had the parental applied massage, and the other 47 or something like that had the parent done massage every night
one as well.
And the weekly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, this is fascinating.
RCT is going to help tease that out.
Well, I think it's fascinating because it's obviously a very specific population, but obviously parents of young children with autism, I think this is, I would want to look more into Qigong massage and perhaps seek out practitioners as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it says promising avenue. So I always look at that and I say, well, obviously you've got to be careful and not overstate claims. So when you see the word promising avenue, what does that tell you? Does that mean that it's, hey, let's definitely give some serious consideration to Qigong massage? Does it mean we're just being careful? Does it mean that it's, a little more neutral? What does that really mean to you? How do you interpret that language?
That's a tricky question. I think, there's a couple of ways to answer that. I think that they certainly are being reserved and cognizant of the fact that the inherent limitation of doing a retrospective study like this, you can't necessarily do causation. But I think that I put more stake into their language of promising, considering the fact that they do have an RCT trial that's happening right now, and that it is based on such a what I consider a pretty strong foundation of evidence so far. Certainly, if one of my children were experiencing something like this, I would be giving them massage every day, based on my own beliefs, but then certainly by this and the evidence that this provides.
Great, thank you.
And what therapists and parents can do with this kind of study is to say, all right, well, here, at least I know, this child doesn't like it when I touch them in this way, but maybe if I try this approach, that seems to be more tolerable. I'd love to share a little anecdote, if I may. And I forget, I saw this on Facebook, but I forget exactly who the person was who was involved. But she was very excited because she had a new client, a child on the spectrum, whose parent was bringing her in to see if she could have any benefit, and the therapist went to PubMed to look up massage and autism, and found this and some other studies that totally changed her approach and her attitude. Her thought was, well, since people who are autistic are touch averse, I should barely touch her, and instead ended up finding that firm, predictable touch was much more tolerable than light, feathery strokes, and felt that the session was a tremendous success, and they shared that story completely spontaneously, and it's that kind of change in attitude and that kind of change in strategy in massage therapists that we're so excited to see.
That's wonderful. I love that anecdote.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. I think we're just about out of time, but is there anything else that you'd like to leave with our listeners as a result of looking into this particular retrospective analysis?
I am very much looking forward to the results of this RCT. I will be watching with anticipation for these.
Great. So am I. We'll be sure to discuss it down the road, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you both. And I encourage all of our listeners and viewers to definitely go read the entire article. It's at ijtmb.org. And again, it's a retrospective analysis, and the author is Luisa Silva. So I would imagine if you do a search for autism in the search bar, you'll probably come across it pretty easily. Be sure and download the entire article. It's free. It'll give you a much deeper view into the specifics, and we obviously touched on some of the key points here.
Yes,
but definitely
it's very
check it
well
out.
written too.
Yeah.
Yeah, go check it out. Download the whole thing, check it out. It's very useful for those who work with young children with autism, maybe their parents, maybe they know someone. Very useful stuff, really worth checking out. And massage therapists who work with these populations. So thank you so much to both of you. Again, I want to remind our viewers and listeners, ijtmb.org is the source for the articles we discuss on this podcast. So be sure you subscribe. And Nikki, Ruth, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insights. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Research Perch. Please send feedback or questions to perch@massagetherapyfoundation.org. See you next time.